Welcome to Honeybee. Don't forget to subscribe, and hit the bell. Real stories of love, lies, and betrayal, where every truth stings. Let's begin. My name is Warren. The day I discovered my wife was deliberately starting arguments just so she could vanish for days was the same day I stopped trying to save our marriage and began planning my way out. After 8 years of what I believed was a strong, committed relationship, Michelle had turned our home into a battlefield. Every tiny disagreement became fuel for her to grab her overnight bag, storm out, and claim she needed space at a friend's house. Friends who apparently never questioned why a married woman kept spending nights away from home. Michelle and I had been married since our 20s. We were young professionals who met through mutual friends, bonded over ambition, and built a shared vision of the future. The first few years of marriage were everything I had ever hoped for. We supported each other's careers, traveled, bought our first home, and seriously talked about starting a family once we were financially ready. But around year 5, something shifted in Michelle. The change was so slow that I chalked it up to normal relationship phases, or job stress at first. Gradually, she became less affectionate, less interested in spending time together, and more likely to respond to my attempts at conversation with distracted memes or promises to talk later. The distance became most obvious in the bedroom, where we had once been spontaneous and passionate. Intimacy became rare, mechanical, and something Michelle seemed to simply tolerate. When I tried to talk to her about it, she always had explanations: stress, exhaustion, hormones. Each reason sounded logical enough to make me feel selfish for even bringing it up. Soon, even casual daily conversations disappeared. She'd come home, dive into work, or go straight to bed, leaving me feeling shut out of her world. By year 7, there was no way to ignore it. The emotional chill in our home was suffocating. It felt like I was living with a polite roommate rather than a wife. I finally got the courage to confront her and suggested we have an honest talk about what was happening between us. Michelle's reaction stunned me. Instead of listening, she became defensive, accusing me of being needy, of having childish expectations about intimacy and communication, of trying to control her. Our conversation turned into a shouting match, ended with Michelle leaving the house entirely. She didn't come home that night. My calls went unanswered, my texts ignored. When she finally returned the next morning, she acted as though nothing had happened. When I asked where she had been, she said she had stayed at a friend's house because it got late and she was still too upset to drive back. She insisted she hadn't answered my calls because she needed time to process. I told her it wasn't okay to disappear overnight without a word. I reminded her that couples should be able to work through conflict together. Michelle shot back that she was an adult and didn't need my permission to see her friends. She claimed my expectation that she check in was controlling behavior. Rather than escalate the fight, I let go, hoping it was a one-time thing. I convinced myself that maybe this was just how she coped with conflict, by needing space. But things didn't get better. In fact, they got worse. Michelle seemed to realize she had found a way to avoid any uncomfortable discussion. She just had to leave. Every argument, no matter how small, ended with her packing a bag and disappearing. It became so predictable that I started to believe she was picking fights on purpose, just so she could justify leaving. She began criticizing things that had never bothered her before, deliberately provoking me, then using my reactions as proof that the house was unbearable and she needed to escape. I told her I couldn't stay in a marriage where she ran away every time we disagreed. I explained that her behavior was destroying trust and intimacy and making it impossible to resolve anything. Michelle accused me of trying to trap her, saying her overnight stays were necessary for her mental health. She made it clear that she would keep leaving whenever she felt toxic energy. At that point, I began to wonder if she was seeing someone else during these absences. But I didn't investigate. I wasn't sure I wanted to know. Everything came to a head one Thursday night in late September. After dinner, I was working my home office when Michelle appeared in the doorway, listing every complaint imaginable about me, our marriage, the house. Her tone was hostile, as though she wanted a fight, not a conversation. I stayed calm and tried to offer solutions, but she escalated, shouting that I didn't take her feelings seriously and that I made her miserable. Predictably, she stormed upstairs, and soon after, I realized she had left again. This time was different. Her travel bag was gone, and she had taken enough clothes for more than one night. She didn't come back the next morning. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Days went by with no response. By the third day, I was genuinely worried. I called her friends and family, but they all claimed not to know where she was. Her mother was vague, and her best friend sounded defensive, as though she was hiding something. After nearly a week, I was ready to file a missing person report. But during one last call with her best friend, she slipped up. She told me Michelle just needed a break and would probably be back soon. That casual reassurance told me everything. They knew where she was, and there was no emergency. It hit me. Michelle's disappearance was a spontaneous reaction to our fight. It had been planned, coordinated with her friends, kept secret from me. I checked our joint bank account and found the evidence. Long-term airport parking fees, big cash withdrawals, all just before our fight. She had planned her escape for days, maybe weeks, and had used our argument as an excuse. Seeing the proof was crushing, but also clarifying. That argument I thought was about saving our marriage was actually just her cover for leaving town. I knew then that there was nothing left to save. Someone who could plan something this elaborate, cut me off completely, and leave me in the dark was not someone I could trust ever again. I acted quickly. I canceled our joint credit cards, removed her access to shared accounts, and moved my paychecks to my personal account. I transferred valuables to a private safe deposit box and changed my beneficiaries. Within days, our finances were separated. Next, I found a short-term furnished apartment and moved out, leaving behind only what Michelle could claim as hers. I switched the utilities into her name and met with a divorce attorney. For the first time in years, I felt focused and clear-headed. Without Michelle's drama, I was able to throw myself into work and rediscover a sense of peace. After almost 2 weeks, my phone started lighting up with her calls. She had returned to find the house half empty, and her financial access cut off. I didn't answer. Her voicemails quickly turned from confusion to anger to panic. She begged me to call, accused me of overreacting, insisted this was just a misunderstanding. I didn't respond. Instead, I had my lawyer serve her with divorce papers. When she finally caught me off guard once, I told her the truth. She had shut me out first. She had lied, vanished, and treated me like a stranger. I had simply followed her lead. When she tried to argue it wasn't that serious, I walked away. The divorce dragged on for months because Michelle kept contesting it, hoping I would give in. But my lawyer was prepared, and her behavior only helped my case. In the end, the assets were split fairly. Michelle had to buy out my share of the house or sell it and divide the proceeds. She received no support beyond what the law required. When it was all over, I felt nothing but relief. Michelle had been manufacturing chaos just to escape our life together. Her secret vacation turned out to be the moment I finally broke free. I learned that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is stop fighting for someone who doesn't want to stay. Being alone turned out to be far better than living with someone who thrived on conflict and manipulation. Michelle thought she was giving herself a break from me, but in reality, she gave me a break from her, and that was the best thing that could have happened.